There is no real D-Day in the Major League Baseball offseason. There are lots of D-Days. Decision days, we've got one nigh upon us. We're here to talk about what decisions the Rangers might make with potential free agents, and we've got to take a look at the MVP balloting. It's named later tonight. It's all coming up on the DLLS Rangers Podcast. Oh, there are decisions to be made. Fear not, not about Corey Seager at this stage in the game, but there are decisions to be made about guys that you love and about a guy who was one of the heroes of the World Series last year. We talk about that with you at a strange time for the DLLS Rangers podcast. We're here at 2, and during the season, this wasn't a strange time, but since the offseason began, usually we've been here at noon having lunch with you. As it is, we're here at 2, and we're glad you are too. Chat with us, like us, subscribe to us. We appreciate it. Abby couldn't be with us today, so it's just me, Rads, and J-Dub over here, Jeff Wilson, and we are talking all things non-tender deadline.
It's exciting.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
It's very exciting, the old non-tender deadline.
Yeah.
Every damn winter, you come up with these
Right.
deadlines. My very first year on the beat, I remembered I didn't really know what it was or anything like that, and I think the Rangers traded for Ben Broussard to be their first baseman.
I remember that. Yeah,
in December of 2007, because those things are possible. Other clubs aren't going to tender a guy, and you like him. Well, hey, all right, sign him up. But the Rangers do have some possibilities. I really don't think they're going to do it, though.
None of them. I don't think. And we'll talk about each of them. None of them. I don't think. There's 5 players right now who are arbitration eligible and are therefore subject to this non-trade or non-tender deadline, and basically it means you either tender them a contract offer or the willingness to offer them a contract
to pay them in 2025.
Yeah, basically you offer them the chance, hey, we're going to pay you, or they get to go be a free agent, and so you're letting them go if you don't tender them for nothing.
That's right, and sometimes it's a salary thing. A guy becomes worth. His contract becomes worth more than you value him at, and some of it is sometimes it's an injury thing. That's a little ugly, but there are situations where it happens. If you just need to open up a roster spot, if you maybe work something out with the player ahead of time, like we're going to non-tender you, we want to keep you, but we don't want to pay you what you're probably going to want to make.
Yeah.
Now they'll still go out and test free agency, but sometimes those deals are
wink, wink. Yeah.
Kind of in place, or know that there's heavy interest in retaining them, and you talk to the agent and all of that stuff. So I don't know what's gonna. I don't think the Rangers, potentially they could do that with a couple guys. I don't know that they're gonna try to shed anybody and just close the door to them. And I think the biggest one is Nathaniel Lowe. He's projected to make around $10 million in arbitration. He made $7.5 million last year. I don't think they're going to non-tender him. I think they've come to realize that Nathaniel Lowe at 10.5 million is a pretty good value. He was a 2.5 WAR player, 2.7 WAR player. If you value WAR at 5 million, well, he's actually a value.
Yeah.
There's the defense. He needs, obviously, he's always been struggling with fastball, but never really has hit the power that he has and that the Rangers need him to have, that first baseman need to have, but he's still going to be a better value and easier to acquire than any of the free agents. Maybe there's a trade out there. I don't think so. But so I think Nathaniel Lowe gets tendered a contract.
Yeah, and look, there was a point through much of the season, I would say, that we were thinking maybe Nathaniel Lowe wouldn't be a part of this team next year, right? I mean, I would say probably up until August. It was, and I think he was thinking the same thing. He had a really good September, and even he said after the season, I didn't have a good year.
Right.
I had a good month.
Yeah.
You know, but maybe that was enough to show them, okay, he got off the schneid, if you will. And you know what? He is worth, this $10 million-ish that he's going to be owed.
Yeah. And if you look at his season, he was hurt in spring training and he missed the first, 22 games or something like that. So maybe the 16 homers is 20. But, he finished 9th in the American League in on-base percentage. So he gets on base. He just needs to slug a little more.
Right.
The defense is, he was not a finalist this year for the Gold Glove, or he didn't win it. He might have been a finalist. I don't recall. But the defense is there. He's a good player, and the Rangers aren't really in a position to get rid of good players. No. I think that he's back.
Yeah, and he's a clubhouse guy too. He's a favorite in there, and so you absolutely. And now he's becoming. I mean, at this stage, he's becoming a veteran in there as well. So you like to have guys like that around, especially as more and more of the young guys are coming up now too. He's one of the veteran presences in that clubhouse. Now, the next one may be a little more dicey. Dane Dunning.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I think he's projected to make somewhere around $4.5 million. He was the Rangers pitcher of the year in 2023.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people forget that.
Yeah.
As valuable as he was.
The World Series year.
Yeah, he led them in innings pitched, but he was also big out of the bullpen early on in the season. And, just a really good year. Did not have the same success. He was okay early, and then it just kind of went away. He had some shoulder fatigue that he dealt with, and at one point later in the year, he just was out of gas. His velocity had dipped into the 80s.
Right. There was a game late in the year. I don't think he could hit 90.
Right, and he can't have that. So
no,
whether it's a conditioning thing or whether it was just there is an arm injury and there needed to be some rest, but he wasn't unlike the postseason medical report. So anyway, do you want to pay Dane Dunning that kind of money? Where you are pitching wise, you're going to be short on innings out of the rotation. You're going to need a guy who can work multi innings, and that's something that Dane Dunning can do. And I think if you put him in a role and don't yo-yo him, then he's going to be good at either one. But boy, you could probably get away with paying Dane Dunning less than $4 million,
right? In
my opinion. But I don't know. Do you risk losing him to another team at that point? And at that point, that puts a dent in your depth. So maybe he does get it just as a security blanket type of thing too.
Yeah, and I hate to say it, but in this day and age, you go, well, who can you get better for $4 million?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's the other thing they've got to consider as they make these decisions. And, of course, how the process works now is that sometime later on, there will be another deadline that we'll talk about on the show. And sometime later on, the two sides will submit their figures, like how much they want to, get paid in the case of the player and pay the player in the case of the team. And
right.
It usually it's never come to this since Lee Stevens with the Rangers.
Right.
But it usually doesn't go to arbitration. They usually settle somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, it was close last year. With
Adolis,
Adolis.
Right? Yeah.
I think they had convened where the meeting was going to take the arbitration hearing was going to take place. They ended up banging out a 2-year deal. So he's taken care of this year. He has 1 year left after this year. And then Mitch Moreland came real close 1 year.
Okay.
And so that was those were the two close ones here in recent memory, at least in my mind. But I think that it's generally, you can be what do they call it? File and trial. Some teams don't even think about it.
Right.
They're like, all right, you're filing. We're going to a hearing.
We're going to yeah.
So you'll see a bunch of the signings that get made as they're leading up to that deadline. But it's a good group. These are good guys.
Yes. And one of the reasons that the Rangers don't like to go all the way to arbitration is because they basically have to go in there before the judge, if you will, the arbitrator, and they have to say why their player isn't worth that money. And it hurts his feelings.
Terrible.
It hurts his feelings.
It's ugly.
And you said it yesterday. There's a theory out there. It's one of the theories about Adolis as to, why he had a down year. And one of the theories is that, his feelings were hurt even by getting as far along in the process as he did.
Yeah.
And so can you imagine if, Chris Young has to go in before the arbitrator and say, well, he didn't do this and he didn't do that and he wasn't very good at this, which, again, you're not going to highlight what he was good at because you're trying to keep the salary lower.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder. Okay, so Lee Stevens, they went to the hearing. Lee Stevens won.
He did.
They traded him 3 weeks into the season.
Yeah.
I wonder if there was. It'd be a good question for TR.
Hard feelings.
Were there hard feelings there? And
maybe.
Anyway, the deadline to exchange figures is January 10th.
January 10th.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll be talking about that on the 9th to the 10th. No doubt about that. We are thrilled to be here each and every day. A couple more guys to get to. None of which I think are really that questionable. World Series hero, if you will, that I mentioned, a hero because he ended the thing.
Yeah.
Josh Boers. They love his stuff. They always have. The only thing they don't love is the injury bug.
Yeah, he's dealing with some stuff right now. They still haven't decided what route they're going to take. He has a nerve issue in his shoulder, and he said he does not want to have surgery for thoracic outlet syndrome. So apparently that's been discussed. I guess there's a drop in velocity when you have thoracic outlet syndrome, and Josh Boers doesn't want to get used to throwing 95. He likes that 98, and 3 mile per hour is a big difference. And so we'll see what they haven't said anything about that. He's only going to get a small raise, projected to get a small raise in arbitration. So it's unless his arm falls off, it doesn't make any sense to
let him go.
To let him go. Leody Taveras
Leody's next. Yeah,
is another one who, another guy that's going to get around $4 million. Not just because that's projected doesn't mean that he's definitely going to get it. And they may be like, hey, why don't you sign for this? And he'd be like, yeah, that's pretty good. Same, and then Jonah Heim, who's going to get a pretty nice raise. So
yeah, what are we thinking he'll make?
I think they're
year?
all in that ballpark,
10?
4 to 5. Not 10.
No, he's a 4 to 5 guy.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah.
But anyway, as a guy who's a recent Gold Glove winner and needs to rebound, granted, but I think he's a guy that you definitely want to have and would have no problem tendering him a contract.
Lots more to talk about today. We appreciate all of you being here. Ray, welcome. It's his first time with us, Jeff, on the chat. So, Ray, we appreciate you. Natalie, we'll get to your question about Leiter a little later on, and yours too, Justin. And, that one too, about the Rangers and talking with Snell. We'll try to touch on all those things coming up a little later on in the program. We also get to a Cy Young voters ballot.
Ooh.
Coming up next. Can you believe that? We see one of the ballots. That's next on the DLLS Rangers Podcast. So next week, Thanksgiving.
Nah.
You know what that means. A lot of crazy family coming over and just all kinds of things running around and going crazy, and you're trying to watch a football game and, it's kind of stressing you out. So what do? Drink.
Yes.
Drink all day.
Yes.
Drink heavily. And so if you're going to drink heavily, do yourself a favor and get your Z-Biotics first, right? Like have your eggs and bacon and then just take a Z-Biotic drink. It's a drink. You just drink a Z-Biotics and it'll make you feel so much better when you have to get up at 4 a.m. on Black Friday to go buy that new TV or whatever
Yeah.
it is you're standing in line for at Best Buy, right? So, do yourself a favor and get a Z-Biotics, because what it does is it helps process the alcohol that's in your stomach, and it makes it so that, it does not allow it to turn into a toxin and make you feel terrible the next day. So if you want to feel good on Black Friday after drinking all day on Thanksgiving, Z-Biotics, 15% off, zbiotics.com/DLLS Rangers.
Yeah, I don't know, speaking of Black Friday and Cyber Monday, what our friends at Roback have up their sleeves, but I do know that right now, if you use the code DLLS Rangers 20, you'll get 20% off your order at roback.com. Now, what is Roback? Besides having a sweet logo with the dog silhouette, they're like just fantastic gear, sports gear, polo shirts, hoodies. I think they have joggers even, which I'm really on a big jogger kick. But the best thing about the shirts is they're moisture wicking, sweat wicking. So when you're out in the heat, it doesn't stick to you. The collars hold their shape. And then they have all kinds of like colors and designs and some fun designs too. So use the code DLLS Rangers 20 on roback.com for generous 20% off your first order. That's spelled RHOBACK.com. 20% off all polos, hoodies, and shorts with the code DLS Rangers 20.
Awesome. It is time to talk about the Cy Young last night. And look, and we're going to get to the MVP today, too. And I think that really this is one of the years where there was almost no drama in either one of those races, which is too bad because, it is kind of fun to be sitting there and wondering, will it be this guy or that guy? But,
sure.
The only thing we were wondering about yesterday, we were pretty sure that it was going to be Tarek Skubal and Chris Sale, and would somebody throw a fly into that ointment? And it didn't happen. Those were the two. The two lefties were the two Cy Young Award winners. And tonight we're going to get to this, but, Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani are likely to be the MVP's name tonight. And so, we'll talk about that a little bit in a minute. But look at right here. We have a Cy Young voter in our midst for the American League. And Jeff has been kind enough to share with us his ballot.
That's right. You have to pledge the secrecy and all this stuff. But this is how I voted. Skubal, he was unanimous, so I got that one right.
Yep.
And then I think I had Lugo, Clase. They were 2-3. And then I think I lost a little bit there. I don't remember the final voting. I know Cole Reagans was in there. He might have been fourth. But the fact of the matter is, I really, obviously Skubal was going to win it,
right?
But and then I really put a lot of time into how the rest of the ballot would play out. Seth Lugo. I know he pitched the All-Star game and all that. He had a great year.
He did,
just fantastic. Clase deserved some sort of recognition. But then between Burns and Cole Reagans and Framber Valdez, it was kind of a toss-up. Frankly, Reagans, his ERA was a little bit higher. I know he had more strikeouts. I almost included him over Corbin Burns. That's what it basically came down to. Framber, I thought, was terrific.
Yes.
I know he plays for the bad guys, at least in Rangers' minds, but he was great in the second half. Fantastic. Of course, he almost no hit the Rangers.
Yeah.
So maybe
Heck
that
of a point.
Maybe that swayed me a little bit. But when Framber Valdez got his head screwed on right, he's terrific. Mm-hmm. He really is. Mm-hmm. And he's going to be one of those contract guys here in 2 years. I think he's a free agent who's going to be hard for the Astros to re-sign. And he's going to get a huge payday in arbitration. So their payroll is only going to go up. So anyway, that's how I voted, and I haven't caught any crap for it yet.
No.
Again, it's the down ballot that surprisingly gets you in trouble. And
no weird,
but nobody seemed to really have any issues.
None
with
of the
that.
Kansas City people were mad that you didn't vote for the former
and
Ranger.
Look, Cole Reagans is one of my favorite people in the game. So I figured he'd apologize. He'd forgive me for not including him. But looking forward to the rest of his career. I hope he does win a Cy Young at some point. Such a good kid who overcame the two Tommy Johns. Good, just good faith. He married his high school sweetheart when they were like 19 or 20.
That's awesome.
And yeah, just a really good kid with a good head on his shoulders. So anyway, that was my ballot.
Yeah, and the thing that surprised me overall, and it didn't surprise you because you had it in that order. I just thought there was going to be more attention, and if there was any controversy, it would be paid to Clase versus the two starters. I really never thought prior that Clase was going to beat Skubal.
No.
But I did think he would finish second just because of those gaudy save numbers that he had and that ridiculous season that he had. And again, he was dominant in save situations. Again, not in the postseason, ironically, but you vote before the postseason begins. Yes. So that didn't factor into the voting at all. But anyway, you had him third, and by a wide margin, he was third.
Yeah, it just, you just look at what Lugo did with the Indians and the strikeouts, and it was just too good. I thought, it would be interesting if Skubal had a more pedestrian year. Let's say he wasn't on the ballot. Would Seth Lugo have won the Cy Young? Probably.
Yeah.
But I do wonder though if some of the Central voters or the voters from the Central teams who saw Clase a lot, also they saw Lugo a lot, how they might have changed their ballots. And I haven't done a deep dive like I did on the Rookie of the Year ballots, but it's all regional. It's all based on who you see. I mean, that's, we get to vote for these awards because we see a lot of games and a lot of teams, and we end up seeing, 4 teams more than others. So sometimes, I've mentioned this before. In 2018, Mookie Betts was the MVP of the American League, and he got 28 first place votes. Well, I was one of the people who didn't vote for him. I voted for Mike Trout, and it was because
you had him on your ballot. You just didn't vote for him
second.
first. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And I voted for Mike Trout. Another voter, I believe in Boston, voted for J.D. Martinez, who was Betts' teammate that year. I just, you get to see Trout 19 times a year back then.
Yeah.
And it's hard to think that anybody's better than him. And the numbers, we're kind of in Betts' favor because he's a better defensive player. But the thing that got me that year was that OPS plus and another metric that factor in park factors. And I mean, it's hard to hit home runs sometimes in Anaheim,
absolutely,
and Oakland and Seattle.
Yep.
And so that's where he would play a lot of his games, and so he was much higher than Mookie Betts in those couple categories, and that to me, leveling the playing field, if you will, kind of told me that Trout had the better year.
Yeah. So MVP announced tonight, and again, the odds-on favorites to win those are Aaron Judge, obviously, and Shohei Ohtani. I think the most drama, comes with the Ohtani possibility of not only winning it 2 years in a row for 2 different teams, but in two different leagues. Jeff.
Yeah. I saw Bob Nightingale from USA Today, good friend who tweeted today, the only drama is if these guys will be unanimous selections. And you'd think they would be, but kind of like we were talking with Abby about the Paul Skeens 5 out of 5 seasons he would win it, and the poor kid from the Padres 4 out of 5 years would win it. Bobby Witt would probably win the MVP.
Yeah.
If not for the great season that Aaron Judge had. And so I wonder if Bobby Witt gets some votes. I mean,
especially again from the Central.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Just a special player and great defensive player, runs like the Dickens, hits the power and average. He won the batting title. It would be interesting. Throw this up 25 years ago, the batting title versus the home run title. What would win it?
Yeah. Good question.
So I could conceivably see Bobby Witt garnering a first place vote or two.
Yeah.
Now in the National League, Ohtani 50-50 and
such a spectacular, eye-popping year, really.
Yeah. But is there going to be a voter out there who said he didn't play defense.
Hmm.
And maybe they give a vote to Lindor. So I don't know. We'll see what happens here at 5:00, I guess. But I won't be surprised if they are unanimous, and I won't be surprised if they aren't. I mean, but they're clearly going to win.
Right.
That's the thing that's not in question.
Right. Yeah. And again, I mean, those type of years are just so rare. The likes of, the Ohtani year, even from him, I don't think we'll ever see again.
No.
Because he's going to try to pitch again, of course, and,
right.
And the Dodgers want him to try and pitch. I mean, they're paying him $70 million a year, maybe not this year, but eventually. Yeah. And so they want him to pitch. They want him to hit. And I think when he is pitching, there's just no chance he's going to get to 50-50 again. And maybe never again, even if he didn't pitch. I mean, that's like otherworldly stuff.
Yeah, it is. And, what he didn't have to do this year was, prepare to pitch, to be a starting pitcher, and you make a start, you have a specialized workout the next day to get all the pain and everything out. Then you throw a bullpen session the next day, and then you're throwing off a flat ground the next 2 days to get ready for your start. And that would, that's a lot of work.
It is. And I assume if he's hitting those days, he obviously still goes and does some BP or something to get ready to hit that night.
Right. He very rarely hits outside. But to your point, the day he pitches, I'm assuming he wants to get some swings in.
Yeah.
So it's just he'll be doubling his workload. That's why I'll be honest. I don't think he's going to be a pitcher for much longer. I just. Babe Ruth didn't pitch his entire career.
No,
he pitched like the first 4 or 5 years of his career, gave it up, became a hitter. Ohtani now on his second Tommy John, he's going to pitch, give it the old college try, but he won't, like the days he pitches and he hits, he's not going to be trying to steal second and third every time he's on base. He just, he's got to be able to have some energy when he goes back out to the mound. So, 50-50 is probably not likely again from him as long as he's a two-way player.
Yeah. And maybe, again, who knows? Because also he's getting older, right?
Right.
Father Time is undefeated, right? So maybe it's never possible again. It pitches, even if like you say, for a couple more years. Well, now he's also 2 years older. So could be tough. Now, as for Bobby Witt Jr., this is a kid we've watched since he was in high school. And, I remember seeing run around the old I remember him. I don't know if I remember Bobby Sr. having any kids at Arlington Stadium, but I for sure remember seeing Junior at what was then the ballpark in Arlington and watching this kid grow up. It's really fun to see the success that he has had. And I think this is I think he will win an MVP. Right.
Sure.
At some point, because of like what you're saying, he is one of those, 5-tool guys, essentially.
Yeah. Judge has shown a knack for getting hurt before, missing chunks of time. But Bobby's he's just a great player and, good kid too, obviously. He's not like his dad. His dad can talk.
Yeah.
I mean, his dad's as good a guy as you're going to come across. And love talking to him. But Bobby's just super. I did a story on him, a couple stories on him when he was about to get drafted. I was in their living room about meet of the prophet, probably closer to Bobby when he got the call. It was during a commercial break, and so he had to keep quiet and he had to act like it wasn't what it was. But he kind of winked at his sister. And, but then they made the announcement. It was just a fun day. That was also, and then I went from there to the ballpark in time for the Rangers to draft Josh Young. It was a busy day, but anyway, it's fun to see him play in high school. He's the best high school player I've ever seen.
Yeah,
just incredible. The instincts, or next level. But he's going to win an MVP.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Great family, great kid. It's amazing that Bobby Sr. too, by the way, never lost the Boston accent. I mean, as long as he's been here, he's still parking the car in the yard and all that stuff. It's really amazing. But like you, I love talking to Bobby Witt. It's a really fun activity. So we've got more coming up on the DLLS Rangers podcast as we continue through this. We talk about the aforementioned Josh Young next in our Now Batting segment. And Rob Manfred addressed the media yesterday as there are some owners' meetings happening in New York. So we'll get to what Manfred had to say next on the DLLS Rangers podcast. How about
Am I doing FOCO now or not?
FOCO. It says Coco. I love spell check. Coco. I'm cold. Get you some cocoa.
Yeah. FOCO, for those who don't know, is like the leader in sports gear, attire, pennants, all kinds of stuff. They help design our set, which we really, really appreciate. But you can get just about anything for your favorite team. We talk, and we're not joking. John is going to get some Detroit Lions overalls.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to happen. I can't wait to see him. You'll have to wear them when you.
I'll wear them in.
When you come.
Yeah.
But FOCO again, if and especially now with the holidays around, if you've got a fan of, let's say, the Denver Broncos like me, I can go ahead and go to FOCO.com, check out their Broncos items, and pick something out. The gaudier, the better, really.
Yeah,
especially when it comes to football.
Yeah.
I really think that's a good way to go. So check out FOCO.com or click the link in the description for all non-pre-sale items. Use the promo code DLLS10 for 10% off.
Yeah, as you're starting to think about, and hopefully you have, some of the Christmas things that you may buy, holiday gifts that you may buy for your peeps, you've got to consider this Rugged Road cooler. It really is the one of the more solid, sturdy coolers I've ever seen, and yet it's lightweight. It's really amazing. Some of those things are just so heavy. This one is lightweight. It's easy to carry. It floats. It's made so well. It keeps your ice and your things cold for 7 days. I've noticed that there's a little wall in the middle of it. There's all kinds of attachments, so you can keep the stuff that's on ice away from the stuff that you just want to stay cold. It's fantastic cooler. It's Rugged Road, and if you go to ruggedroad.com and use the promo code DLLS, you get 10% off Rugged Road coolers. Now batting, number 6, third baseman, Josh Young. Yeah, so Josh Young only batted in 47 games, 46 games?
Somewhere around there.
Last year. He didn't bat nearly enough. April 2nd.
I think it was April 1st.
Was
when
it
he got
really?
hit. April 2nd, he hit the injured list. Yeah.
Golly.
It was the 4th game of the season. He had started 7 for 17.
Yeah.
So he, even though he had missed all of spring training, he was on the Corey Seager schedule for different injuries. But, he was looking like he deserved to be batting 4th or wherever it was. Wherever he was going to get off to a hot start and everything was going to be great. Well, lo and behold, Phil Maton hits him with a pitch in the right arm near the wrist, breaks it. It turned out to be a pretty bad break and one that kept Josh out until I believe
end of July. I think it might have been the 29th.
The trade deadline was when they activated
Yeah.
him the day before the trade deadline in St. Louis, and then he made his debut the next night. And what a blow,
Yeah.
Talking about a guy who was a cornerstone. You think he's going to be the third baseman of the future, and he is. But man, it just set some things in motion. And Josh Smith benefited from the playing
No doubt.
time, took the opportunity. But Josh Smith doesn't have 30 homer potential like Josh Young. Not a middle of the order bat, although he ended up batting third a lot this season.
He did.
But anyway, so that's the key. Can Josh Young stay healthy for 162 games? How about 150 games?
Yeah.
How about 145 games?
Yeah.
Take that.
Sure.
Just he needs a season where he doesn't have any catastrophic injuries. They're the people who seeing him on the injured list and injury after injury. It's like, oh, well, he's injury prone. He's terribly unlucky.
Yes.
Okay. This isn't like a hamstring on, April 18th and then a hamstring on May 31st, a quad. It's not soft tissue stuff. It's bones breaking. He broke his thumb in 2023. Obviously the wrist this last season, and in 2021, the spring of 2021, It was a broken foot in spring training, a hairline fracture that needed surgery. 22 was a torn labrum because of the abuse that he'd put on his body from diving all over the place. So, it's these aren't the injuries that like make a guy injury prone. He's just terribly, terribly unlucky. So, hopefully he throws a coin down a well or has a lucky rabbit's foot in his pocket or something. Because he needs to stay healthy, and the Rangers need him to stay healthy.
Yeah, and it begs the question. I mean, again, the break was so severe on that wrist that it plagued him all season long. And recall, at the end of the year, he went back on the injured list, and that was basically called wrist tendonitis, I think.
Yeah.
But he had ECU tendon release surgery on that right wrist performed by Dr. Stephen Shin in Los Angeles on the 8th of October. It's a 3 to 4 week recovery. So by now, you figure he's back to doing baseball stuff. Yeah.
Apparently, he threw out the first pitch at the World Wiffle Ball Championships that were at AT&T here recently. So I think if he's throwing, even if it's a wiffle ball, that's a good sign because everything was bothering him because it's right. The scar is right here that he has. I mean, it's as close to the wrist as you can get without the plate, interfering. The tendon that runs under the plate had been irritated. So I guess they found a way to release it without having to, take out the plate, which would create a whole new set of fractures, and he'd have to go through that again. So, you hope that he's having a full off season, that he's going to get in shape, that he's going to strengthen the area, and that he's going to find a swing that works. He still strikes out too much.
Yeah. He was down this year. He's like at a 25 and change % rate, which is the lowest in his career, but that's still too high.
Yeah. He didn't strike out a ton in college. So they need to get that fixed, but that's kind of nitpicky. He just needs to be on the field. If he's on the field, if he plays 145 games, he's going to hit 30 home runs. He's going to drive in a bunch of runs. He's going to hit probably in the 270 range, I would think, 275. If he's making more contact and striking out less, maybe a little higher. It's just he's a potential. Well, he has been an all-star.
He's been an all-star.
He's a potential perennial all-star, although he has Jose Ramirez at his position. But it's something the Rangers 100% need next year is Josh Young in the lineup.
Yeah, no doubt. And look, at the beginning of the year, and I know it was only 4 games, but yesterday we had Adolis Garcia discussion, and today we're talking about Josh Young. And the way both of them started did not resemble, and in Josh's case, it was injury, and Adolis's, he just had some issues after a really good first month. But I remember thinking, 3 games in, I guess, because we only had 4, but I'm like, wow. This team is picking up offensively where it left off because you've got was Young batting 5th then? Or
I think he was batting 4th.
4th. I think Adolis was batting 3rd.
Yeah.
I think so. Anyway, you're looking at your 3rd and 4th
or
place.
They were flipped. One of the two.
Yeah. You're looking at, middle of the order guys, wherever they were in the middle, who are just raking. And you're like, wow, this offense is going to click. This is unbelievable. And yet Corey Seager, we knew at that point, was going to be Corey Seager. He had missed most of spring training, so he wasn't quite himself yet. And you're thinking, man, this group with these guys gets Corey Seager back, it's going to be, again, the 27 Yankees offense type thing.
Yeah, and it just obviously didn't happen. But Josh didn't underperform; he just couldn't perform.
Yeah,
and so that's the deal there. Like we've been saying for a few minutes here. Get in on the field, stay on the field, don't miss 100 games, and see what happens.
Yeah, it'd be great. We remember his progression to the big leagues, and of course he was a big, highly anticipated September call up in 22.
Correct. Homered in his first career at bat.
Yeah. And then struggled, right? And he had been every other level. He had done great. And again, injuries there too, but he had done well. But then he got that dose of big league pitching, and they were ready for him, right? I mean, when a guy gets the kind of fanfare Josh Young did coming into the big leagues, guys they're okay. Let's see what you got, young man.
And he'd gotten back a lot quicker from the shoulder surgery
Yeah.
than anybody thought. He had the surgery right around Valentine's Day in 22, and I went and saw him in Arizona right after the All-Star break. He was throwing, swinging, all that stuff. I think he played in a fall league game or a complex league game that night. Dane Acker pitched in that game, by the way.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, and they brought him up, and he just started killing the ball. And then they didn't call him up.
Right.
And so then he started to press a little bit. Even he admitted this, like, geez, why am they not going to call me up? Why are they not going to call me up? And so he started chasing and striking out more. Well, they finally did call him up when September rolled around and the rosters expanded, and he couldn't get out of it. Basically, he was in that habit had been created, and it took a while for him to get out of it. And he was better in 23, still struck out too much, but he has power to all fields now. That was a knock against him coming out of college, was that he was more of a right center field power guy. He developed the power down the left field line, and so really the defense is good. I think it cost him a chance to be a finalist at least in 23. The thumb injury, because I thought he was playing as good a third base as anybody else out there. So, if he can stay healthy, knock on wood, he's gonna have a big season.
No doubt.
And the Rangers are gonna be better.
No doubt. And that defense, I think, is one of those things too. And they certainly say this in the NBA all the time. And to some extent, I think it's true in baseball. But in the NBA, they always say defenses want to. Right? If you want to, you can play good defense. I think that's overstating it a little bit for baseball. That said, I sat there with Steve Buechele watching that first month, after that September call-up with Josh Young. And Steve, of course, Boo was a great third baseman for the Rangers and a few other teams, the Cubs, the Pirates. And he was like, I don't know. I don't know that this guy is going to be a great major league third baseman. I'm not sure he's got third base in him, right? That was sort of what a very, trained set of eyeballs was seeing. And by the way, he is not an alarmist, Boo. I mean, he's really not. He's calling it like he sees it. And then the next year, I'm looking at him going, Boo, are you seeing this? He goes, yeah, I was wrong, and I have to believe that was about hard work, right? Sure. In that off season. That's what that was about.
Yeah. I mean, Josh is I don't want to say a gym rat. He's a baseball junkie,
field rat. Yeah.
And wants to work all the time. Never wants to sit out. He didn't want to sit out the last week. He was trying to convince the Rangers, hey, I'm okay.
I'm okay. I'll do it. Yeah.
I'll play. I can play. And, I guess if it had been a postseason team, then he would not have gone on the injured list. They would have shot him up or whatever they needed to do. But he hates it. And then the Rangers coaches and players love him for that.
Yes.
And, nobody will ever complain about Josh Young's work ethic.
No. And, and speaking of loving him, we all do too, in part because he's like this Renaissance man, he's like a part-time chef. He's just when he gets bored easily. And so especially in those times when he was injured, he took, I can't remember the name of it now, but some French cooking lessons during one of his injury rehab stints. I found this out when he was in Round Rock, so I think it may have been when he was down there or just before that rehab,
Yeah, and in 21, when he was recovering from the foot injury, he would do virtual reality just so he could see pitches.
Wow.
He was, I don't know what the app is, Windstream, or I don't remember what it's called. I get ads for it because I have a kid they think must be interested, but so his mind is always at work.
Yeah. Great guy. And we really do root for a guy like Josh Young. More coming up on this program. It's the DLLS Rangers Podcast. We appreciate you hanging out with us on this Thursday afternoon. Big show tomorrow as we've got a very special guest, former Rangers closer and one of the good guys in the game, Joe Nathan, will join us tomorrow. So you definitely want to be around for that at noon. Coming up next on the podcast, we have our batting cleanup segment. We've got things to clean up. The Soto saga continues, and Rob Manfred addresses the media. That's next on the DLLS Rangers Podcast. Hey, we want you to become a diehard, like the newer ones of you, like Ray and Justin. I don't know if we've seen Justin around much, but all of you, please.
Justin's a good Twitter follower.
Is he? Okay, yeah. Good. Thank you, Justin. And so all of you, please become a diehard. It's a really cool thing to be, because what you can do is read what, especially for those of you who are, like-minded with Jeff, his stuff, a lot of it is going to be behind a paywall. Doesn't matter. If you're a diehard, you go right back there and you read it at your will, at your convenience. It's $79.99, pretty cheap, because you get a free shirt when you do it. So basically, a $35 shirt, $80, $79.99, whatever. You're doing it for $45. Look, there's some of the choices you have for shirts. The one I'm wearing is also available. It's any shirt we have in our merchandise quiver that you could get. We're also going to give you 20% off our events, of which there will be many. We were just talking to the boss upstairs before the show about how the budget situation is going to be next year. And I think we're going to have some money to do some trips, and we're looking forward to that. And anyway, become a diehard today.
Yeah, that shirt's growing on me, John.
This one, you starting to like it?
Yeah, I didn't wear one today. I did wear, however, I'm cold, so I'm wearing this pullover. Denver Bears.
Wow.
Yeah, the minor league team, the AAA affiliate, long before the Rockies. The Denver Bears were the first pro team I ever saw play baseball at Old Mile High Stadium. Great teams. They were Expos affiliate, Tim Raines and Andre Dawson.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I think, I might be making this up, Billy Martin in the 70s managed the Bears. They were a Yankees affiliate for a while. Then they became the Zephyrs, and the Zephyrs moved when the Rockies came. They moved to New Orleans. New Orleans became the Baby Cakes. But anyway, I think that our people in Denver, the DNVR, should do a Bears shirt.
Yeah.
So check out store.allcitynetwork.com, and maybe one day that one will pop up. But, like John was just saying, our shirts are great. We're going to get hats. We have hoodies, all of which I need to add. The hats have to come soon. I'm about to go on strike, actually.
Yeah.
So I love this Do It For Dirt hat, but I need a DLLS hat.
Yeah.
So store.allcitynetwork.com.
Yeah, perfect. We appreciate you, and we appreciate All City Network. So get yourself some merch and become a diehard if you would. It's our batting cleanup segment. We typically start that with the Soto saga. No real news today, but a little bit more on Hal Steinbrenner's comments about their pursuit of Soto. We dove into this a little bit when Abby was here yesterday, but I went back and looked at those comments again. I was very intrigued to see Steinbrenner's exact words were, or the tone of his words were along the lines, Jeff, of, look, to go over the luxury tax year after year after year after year, and the penalties that continue to rise with that, that payment for the luxury tax. That tax gets bigger and bigger every year. He said that's not sustainable for us, and I don't think it's sustainable for any other owner in baseball, right? So I'm not saying he's claiming poverty.
Right.
I'm just saying it is penal, right? In that realm, if you continue to do it year after year after year over the luxury tax threshold, the penalties, the fines get stiffer and stiffer. That said, he said, we are in a position this year to do this.
Yeah.
We have a willingness and we have the money. And so to me, that was a pretty strong statement that he made. We have the willingness and we have the money.
Yeah. It just, look, these teams can't help themselves.
Right.
They're gonna pay them. They're gonna pay the fine. All right. They're just gonna do it.
Yep.
Now, to what degree they go over, I guess, that affects a lot of it. But man, if any team has it, it's the ones that he's been visiting with.
Yeah.
And I think it's a stretch for the Red Sox.
Yeah, probably.
But I think Dodgers, Yankees, Mets, and I think the Yankees have the home field advantage, if you will. But yeah, he's going to make a mint, and I'll be glad when it's over.
Yes.
And I think a lot of the rest of the market will be too. This is this is not a once in a lifetime free agent, but he doesn't. These guys don't grow on trees.
No.
They don't come along at
No.
free agency at 26.
No.
The guy who's already established as one of the best players in the world at 26.
26,
and you're
yeah.
going to be getting him for 10 or 12 years
Yeah.
potentially. He is a unique guy, but still, I'm sure that everybody else out there wants to know what that price looks like, and
Sure.
and go from there. But I think it's the Yankees. I the Pete Alonso thing's intriguing. Are the Mets gonna, in their pursuit for Soto, let somebody else come in and get Alonso? Because the Mets with Soto and Alonso were pretty shiny. With the Mets without Alonso behind Soto doesn't work as well. So see what happens. But again, I think it's the Yankees.
It's funny too. One other comment from Steinbrenner, paraphrasing a bit, but they asked, do you think you'll sign him? He said, I have no idea, but if he signs with someone else, we'll be happy for that team, no matter who they are. And I thought that was definitely a nod to the Mets, right? Like, we'll even be happy for the Mets, our crosstown rivals. So anyway, Soto's saga continues. Like Jeff and me, I think he wants to get it done quickly too.
Yeah,
which is good. It seems, and most of the reports we hear seem to indicate that he's going to have this done. They're going to have this done prior to the winter meetings, and so if they don't, I think the winter meetings would be the last, right? The sort of the deadline, and that'd be kind of fun actually if it happened at the winter meetings.
I guess to Wasteland Studios in Lexi, the Rangers and Soto, the winter meetings were here in 2000, right? Or 2001.
Alex Rodriguez.
Nobody thought the Rangers were going to sign him.
Yeah.
And they pulled off the upset at home. So I don't know.
Home field advantage.
That's right.
Maybe it's you're saying there's a chance, no doubt. Rob Manfred met the owners had a round of meetings at the MLB offices yesterday, and so Rob Manfred took the chance to chat with the media. Some very interesting things. One of them we've mentioned once before, but a quick follow-up or update on the Sasaki story. Roki Sasaki, the 23-year-old unbelievable pitcher. Many are saying, comparing him to Jacob deGrom and saying he's one of the best pitchers on the planet. He is going to be posted by his team, the Chiba Latte Marines over in Japan. They will post him. It looks, though, like that they won't post him until, as Manfred calls it, the new pool of international money opens up, which means they'll post him right at the first part of December.
Yeah, and that makes sense because the most money that a team has is actually the Dodgers, and they have around $2.5 million. He can get more than that. This means that everybody refreshes. The top teams will have around, I think, 7 or 8. Rangers will come in around 6. I think that again, this puts them all in play, but it's a small group. The Pirates are going to have as much money as anybody, and the White Sox, but he's not going to go there. So it really the group is small. And the one thing that also came out of the deal yesterday with Manfred is that there are reports that the Dodgers and Sasaki already have a deal in place, for a couple years down the road, and that it's a foregone conclusion. And the agent Joel Wolf, who's a good guy, came out and said, "Boy, that kind of story is really a shot at my integrity and all this stuff." And Manfred said, "Well, if we find that there have been any things like that, there will be proper measures taken." Look, part of the meetings are going to be, here's our team, here's how we envision you, here's our area, here's our ownership, who has produced all-time high payrolls the past 5 years, something like that. That's like hint, hint. It's coming.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to be able to pay you. And we don't have any issues signing second-year players to long extensions. You can answer questions in certain ways without ever talking money on the back end, but up front, it's going to be something from the international pool.
Yeah.
Ideally, I think teams would prefer to tell him, hey, look, we're going to give you 75% of our pool, let's say, because we need this 25% to sign guys
Sure.
who are going to help you in 5 or 6 years, 4 to 6 years. You're going to want these guys on your team. So I think that's one approach that'll be taken. So he won't, like the Pirates. The Pirates are going to deplete their whole international pool on one guy. The Rangers aren't going to do it. The Dodgers aren't going to do it. They need to have some money. They need to have prospects. You got to keep the system fresh with talent, and the international signing period is a big part of it. But Ken Rosenthal did write something that's been relayed to me by some scouts, is that some kids in the Dominican are going to get screwed over by this because so much money going to one guy. There are going to be a lot of agreements that a team backs out of because, and they'll say, hey, well, we had this choice. Sorry. And so that could send a kid spiraling into the next draft class, or delay his career. He might want to sign for less, whatever it is. It is an unfortunate drawback. And it seems like it really should be avoidable. That this is a definite flaw in the international system when there's a player of this guy's caliber or Ohtani's caliber who's going to end up hurting several prospects who did nothing to deserve it.
Yeah.
And if you were looking to clean up the lawlessness, if you will, in signing Latin American players, one way to do it is to take care of them. Because I would think that this would lead to more lawlessness. Changing birth certificates or whatever it is. Just that it does need to be fixed.
Yeah. So that Sasaki saga continues, no doubt about that too. It'll be very, very interesting. And the one change that also becomes a part of this later deadline, right? Not posting him until December 1, is that this will be done 45 days from them. So January 15, which is starting to get late in an off season, right? If you get that done by December 15, you know a lot more about the rest of your off-season plans.
Sure.
January 15, you hopefully have done a few things in December and around the winter meetings in order to get your team set for next year. But some teams could be sitting there waiting, going, okay, well, we got to keep our powder dry, if you will, so we have a shot at Roki Sasaki. So anyway, that's just a little update based on what Rob Manfred said yesterday. He also talked yesterday about the A's and how they're going to Sacramento, but he says in his mind, Las Vegas is all systems go, full steam ahead, and they don't have the whole thing in place yet, although he says the land is being cleared and ready to buy, and that by 2028, they'll be playing in Las Vegas.
Yeah, I guess the important thing, whether it's publicly funded or not, the owner,
John
Fisher, yeah, thank you, from the Gap family, is willing to foot the bill himself,
right?
And if he has that kind of money, wonderful,
good for him.
Yeah, exactly. Build the dang thing. But the land's been cleared. They knocked down the Tropicana. The historic Tropicana, and so it's there. It's there. All you got to do is start building the thing. And Manfred said everything is on track. Not on track, though, it appears, is Tampa.
Right.
And St. Pete, Pinellas County is kind of playing games with them, so they're not sure it's going to be built. And then I saw some talk that it might not be delivered by 2028. Well, that's going to add a ton of money to it that the Rays have said they can't pay for. So maybe they need to cover that roof up at the Trop. I don't know, but why do these guys keep shooting themselves in the foot? Eventually it's going to lead to the Tampa Bay Rays leaving.
Yeah,
it's the who's the A's haven't been able to get a stadium deal done for years and years and years. And look what happened. Yeah. So at some point, the Rays might have to pack up and go.
Hey, like us, subscribe to us, and hang out with us each and every day. And now we want to address some of the chat, but we have to you forgot about this, Elijah. We got to do a soft close. So I did the soft close. That's what that was. They can make that an hour show whenever they want to. And now we appreciate all this chat because what about these Giants podcast? You see the note down there from the Giants podcasts are all talking about Buster Posey trying to get Corey Seager. That's not going to happen.
No. There seems to be like a couple schools of thought, and neither one of them are correct. Either the Rangers, people ignore the fact that the Rangers are without a TV deal and are going to be operating under some financial constraints, but still can keep their roster together. And
yes.
But there are people who think that they, forget those constraints. They're going to have a ton of money to sign whoever they want. Then there's a side that's like, oh my God, the Rangers don't have any money. They got to start trading off all these guys. It's neither one of those. The Rangers are going to be fine financially. They're not going to have to trade anybody. They're not going to trade one of the best players in the world, especially when they're trying to win the World Series again. Josh Smith is not a suitable replacement for Corey Seager. He'd be fine, but he's not going to hit 30 home runs and win World Series games all on his own. So, it is interesting. You brought while the Giants are here, they have a non-tender question with Mike Yastrzemski, and the Rangers would like Mike Yastrzemski. Now, I don't see a Corey Seager for Mike Yastrzemski trade happening.
Seems a little one-sided,
but I do think that there could be something that goes on a little bit there. So anyway, is BC's wondering about our time change? Yeah, it was just today. Today we had to move to 2. So I think we try to mention it every day on the show. We're going to be at noon tomorrow, right, John?
Yep, back at noon tomorrow.
All right, BC.
I think we're at noon the 3 days before Thanksgiving next week, off on Thursday, and back at noon on Black Friday, or maybe 1. That may be 1 on Black Friday, but it's right around there in our what do you got, Prophet? Time. Yeah. So that we appreciate.
1 o'clock on Friday.
1 on Friday, yeah.
I think we actually.
I think we chose that. Yeah, I think we actually did. So anyway, we wanted to sleep in a little bit on the day after Thanksgiving, after our lovely Z-Biotic before the day. So yeah, a lot of chat about let's go get Soto. No doubt, everybody'd love to get Soto. That's not happening either. Not with the aforementioned uncertainty in the TV thing. The Mavericks came out this week and said that putting together their television package was a $53 million investment. So $53 million basically to just put all the infrastructure in place so that the team can then broadcast the games. Oh, and by the way, they've spent $53 million, and they don't have Bally or Diamond or anybody else there to give them the $80 million that they were getting before, right? So they're now down, what's that, $135 million. Now, they'll get some money back in advertising, but nothing is in place yet. They're working on that, and that's all happening. But they're going to take a huge loss this year. Now, their team is now owned by people who own a casino. Right. So casinos it is. So they probably said, 53 million? Well, who cares, right?
We just made that.
That is not the way it's going to happen over there in Arlington. They're not just going to shrug off 53 million, nor do I think the Rangers will spend 53 million to get their TV situation, their production facilities, and all that stuff up and running. So they have to spend some money, and I know for a fact they've already begun hiring people for that, and they've hired good people. I'll tell you that right now. So fear not, TV's going to look good. It's going to be very similar to what you've seen for all these past years, and the only rub has been a lot of you haven't been able to see it because Bally wasn't available on a lot of cable systems, but it's a good product, and it's going to remain a good product. It's just a matter of the Rangers won't, like the Mavs aren't, the Rangers won't be getting just a lot of money back. The only money they're going to get back, there won't be rights fees. So the money they're going to get back will be from the advertising that they sell. And that takes a little while to get going.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that, John. What would it cost for Coca-Cola, just throwing out Coca-Cola, to be a sponsor for a full season? What does that cost?
A lot. And I mean, like, in the millions, for sure, obviously. And I'm not up to speed with the current actual values. I know what it was when we started, Fox Sports Network way back in the early 2000s. And in those days, it was a couple of million just to get in the door. Now that's 20 years.
Yeah.
22 years. So it's probably significantly more than that, especially for a full baseball season. So it's a lot of money. And look, the truth is, you don't have to worry too much about the Rangers. They have relationships with all of those big sponsors, right?
Sure.
But they're hiring tons of people. I mean, wisely, they're hiring tons of people from Bally. As I remind you again, the people that worked at Bally here in the area were good. They were really good at what they did. It's just unfortunate that most of the people in this area, through no fault of our own, couldn't see it. But these are really good people who are going to put together a really good television program. It's just that there's a huge outlay of cash the first year, and it does take time to build back up to where you're getting what the Rangers were getting at their peak, which was $110 million. That's a lot per year to be able to go sell that in advertising. Is it possible? Yes, because before Diamond bought the group from Fox, the fee was still $110 million, and Fox was making money. So, yeah, it's possible to sell that much, and for the Rangers to make that much, it's possible for them to make more. And I believe, I haven't confirmed this with anybody, but I believe it is their belief they will, right?
Well,
eventually.
Yeah. And all right. So sell the naming rights to your little network.
Yep.
See what happens with the Mavs and the Stars. See if something doesn't. There isn't a hiccup with Victory or the WFAA thing. Form your own goddamn network in a couple of years.
Yeah.
Or have the Rangers have it in place, and then say, hey, guys, here, let's just form this network. Ton of inventory. We'll figure out when we have conflicts during the playoffs and all of that jazz. But it just seems like bring your advertisers to our fold.
We'll let you have ours.
You can have ours. We'll have this great big pot of money. It's a potential Nesson or yes. It really is.
It is. And that was literally, that was an idea that Tom Hicks had way back in the day. And he was trying to put something like that together when then I think it might have still been HSE, but it may have already switched over to Fox, swooped in and said, well, you don't have to do that. We'll give you all this money. And went, oh, okay, good. Well, let's do it that way. But to your point, it's essentially what the Astros and Rockets have done. Mm-hmm. They formed Space City Network, and they are doing essentially what you've just suggested that the Rangers and the Mavs potentially and possibly even the Stars would be doing. I hear that their numbers on Victory Plus are underperforming. They were great for the first week or so, but they're not getting the numbers that they thought they would get either. So, and part of that, I mean, I just believe there's a big hole in their idea. And I've talked to them about it. I've even talked to Brad Albers just, anecdotally about it, but that people still want to watch on TV. Give me a TV option, right? Streaming is fine. Give me a TV option too. And that's what Victory did do with the Anaheim Ducks. The Anaheim Ducks are Victory streaming, every game streamed, but they have a TV partner in Los Angeles that carries all the games too.
Yeah.
Same signal, same feed, same announcers. It's just, it's on TV as well as on the app.
Right. So it just seems like something bigger is down the road.
What I've said this a lot. What we have right now isn't it, right? Like people are, what's next for TV and sports? There's something. This ain't it, right? This is a thing. this is going to work. This ain't it. But I'll tell you what is it. And I tell people this too. All-City Network. This is it. And we're not even trying right now to get rights fees and those types of things, because we can't necessarily say the things we want to say when we're partners with the teams. So that's not even in our wheelhouse at this point or thought process. But this is where you are consuming sports and sports talk these days. And it's working remarkably well in Denver, in Chicago, in Philadelphia, in Phoenix, and we've only just started less than 3 months ago. Right. And we've got, all of you in with us and on all the other shows too. So this is a thing. I believe what the Mavs are doing on KFAA, I believe Victory, I believe whatever the Rangers decide to do, they're stopgaps. That's again, nobody's told me. That's what I think is going to happen. Those are stopgaps until we figure out what's next, right? We got to figure out what's next. Technology helps dictate that, and viewer habits help dictate that. And, there's so many factors that go into it. But I agree with you. I think there will be something that's like, all of what you described, a network that puts them all together.
Yeah, it just makes sense. I mean, these are 3 popular teams in a huge media market.
Yeah.
Distributes across territories in 5 states. Why not give people one place to do it and everybody can benefit from it?
Yeah, and the money that is available is really silly. I mean, it's silly money. They used to tell, I was always surprised they did this. Fox is the only place I ever worked where they did this. But we'd have the annual meeting every year, and they go, man, we're making so much more money than we thought we would. And I'm kind of like, how about a little something for the effort here, And they took care of, they took care of their people fairly well. But that said, every year, we're printing money. We're the biggest region out there. We're making so much money. I'm like, really? So don't tell us that, or don't tell us we don't have the budget for this or that, right? But in any event, the point is there's a lot of money to be made broadcasting live sports. It's like the only thing people like to watch live.
Yeah.
Everything we watch so we don't have to, we stream it or whatever we do so we can watch it at our convenience and watch it how we like to watch it. Sports, for the most part, you don't do that. You want to watch it as it happens, so you don't get your, spoiled by your phone and social media saying the Rangers just beat the, Arizona Diamondback World Series champions, right? You want to see it. So anyway, good gosh, we've gone too long.
We have, but that's fine.
Yeah, that's what we get to do when we want to. So thank you, new listeners, viewers, chatters. We appreciate you. Noon tomorrow.
10 Pacific time for all you Giants and Padres people.
Yeah, and noon on Monday. Tomorrow and Monday, we have guests. Monday, the guest will be in studio with us. And tomorrow, we will be joined by Joe Nathan, who will not be in studio, but will come on with us and chat about all things baseball. He'll walk down memory lane of his days with the Rangers, and we'll have a good time with Joe Nathan tomorrow. We hope you'll be with us, too, for another edition of the DLLS Rangers Podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.